You know, Alex, I spent 3 hours yesterday evening staring at a screen trying to flatten a 3D model into a 2D shop drawing for a client. By the end of it, my eyes felt like someone had rubbed them with 80 grit sandpaper. I felt less like a craftsman and more like a weary data entry clerk in a flannel shirt.
Oh, so the master of the lathe finally met his match in a drop-down menu? I thought you enjoyed the zen of technical drawing.
There is no zen in clicking export to PDF 40 times because the dimensions keep vanishing into the digital void. It's an exercise in patience I no longer have the currency to pay for. But I saw something this morning that felt like a gift from the universe. This tool called Draft Aid. Apparently, it uses AI to take those 3D models and spit out the drawings instantly.
Wait, so you're telling me the robots are finally doing the paperwork? That's usually the part where you tell me technology is ruining the soul of the craft.
My soul can survive a little less time in front of a monitor, believe me. If a computer can handle the heavy lifting of drafting, that's more time I get to spend actually making shavings. It's the same vibe over at Mastercam with their new 2026 update. They've added this Copilot feature. You don't even dig through menus anymore. You just tell it, hey, dial back the spindle speed for this finishing pass, and it does the math.
It sounds a bit like having a shop apprentice who actually listens and doesn't drop your favorite chisel. But doesn't that make you feel like you're losing the feel for the machine? If the software is doing the thinking, are you still the one driving?
It's a fair point. But I look at it like a power planer. Sure, I could spend all day with a hand plane getting a board flat, and there's a time for that. But if I've got 40 boards to do, I'm using the machine. These AI tools are just power tools for the brain. Speaking of which, Exponential 2026 is coming up next week. It's all drones and robotics. I'm telling you, the day is coming when I'll have a drone hovering over my shoulder telling me my tendon is a 16th of an inch too thin.
Great, just what you need. A floating, buzzing version of me to judge your joinery. Speaking of things changing fast, did you see the report from the World Pack event? They're basically saying that if you're a mechanic and you aren't comfortable with high voltage systems by now, you're basically working on a horse and buggy.
It's a shift, for sure. I used to think of a car as a collection of greasy parts held together by hope and WD-40. Now, they're just rolling servers. The guys getting paid the big bucks aren't the ones who can just swap a part. They're the ones who can speak software.
It's intimidating, though. For someone who grew up changing oil and sparking plugs, high voltage mastery sounds like something you need a degree from MIT for.
It's less about the degree and more about losing the fear of the black box. I remember the first time I had to troubleshoot a CNC controller. I was sweating bullets, convinced I was going to turn a $20,000 machine into a very expensive paperweight with one wrong keystroke. But once you realize it's just a different kind of wrench, it opens up a whole new world. The highest paid techs now are the ones who can bridge that gap. They have the grease under their fingernails, but they know how to navigate a diagnostic HUD.
So basically, don't be a dinosaur or you'll end up as the fuel for the cars the smart kids are fixing.
Exactly, you've got to keep the blade sharp, or you're just rubbing wood with a blunt stick.
You know, it's not just the tools and the tech that are changing. I was looking at Dakota Ray Lowe's stuff lately. She's killing it on LinkedIn and Substack. It's a different vibe than the old school build a website, and they will come approach.
Digital storefronts are one thing, but building a presence is where the real magic is now. I see a lot of makers hiding behind their finished products. They post a photo of a perfect gleaming dining table and wonder why no one's engaging.
Right. People don't just want the table. They want the story of the guy who almost cut his thumb off making the table.
Well, maybe keep the blood out of the photos, bad for the brand. But yeah, show the mess. Show the bucket of expensive firewood you created when the router slipped. That's what people relate to. Russell Brunson has been preaching the funnel thing for ages, but for us makers, it's about that brand genius approach.
So, less buy my bowl and more, here's why I spent 12 hours selecting this specific piece of cherry.
Bingo. It's about engagement over reach. I'd rather have 50 people who know my name and why I use a specific oil finish than 50,000 people who just scroll past a pretty picture while they're on the bus. You have to diversify too. Instagram is for the ooh, ah, but Substack is where you get to actually talk to people. It's like the difference between a storefront window and inviting someone into the shop for a coffee.
Just don't tell them how much you spend on specialized sandpaper. That's a secret for the inner circle.
Speaking of the inner circle, Mother's Day is Sunday. And if you're like me, you probably realized that about 10 minutes ago.
Tiger, You're usually so prepared. Are you telling me you don't have a hand-carved gold-leafed masterpiece ready to go?
I have a very nice piece of walnut and a lot of good intentions, but I was looking at some scroll saw projects. There's this one titled Mom, I Love You that's doing the rounds on YouTube. It's delicate, it's intricate, and honestly, it's the kind of thing that makes you look like a much better person than you actually are.
It's the get-out-of-jail-free card of the woodworking world. Look, Mom, I spent 4 hours moving a tiny blade through a maze for you.
It works every time. But if you're feeling more ambitious, or if your mom has been dropping hints about the kitchen looking tired, there's always the countertop refresh, wood or laminate. It's a weekend project that actually moves the needle on the house value.
I've seen those DIY countertop videos. They make it look so easy, but I feel like that's a recipe for a very crooked kitchen and a very unhappy Mother's Day dinner.
Well, that's where the community learning comes in. We talked about this on Sunday Night Live, episode 178. We went deep into the mistakes people make with adhesives and measuring. If you don't want your countertop to have a gap big enough to swallow a toaster, you have to watch the replays. Most of my wisdom is just a collection of every time I did it wrong the first time.
So your expertise is basically just a mountain of failed projects you're standing on to see over the fence?
It's a very sturdy mountain, Alex, very sturdy. You know, looking at all this, from AI drafting to high voltage car engines, it can feel like the world is moving too fast for those of us who just like to hold a tool in our hands. But at the end of the day, whether you're using a copilot or a coping saw, the goal is the same. You're trying to bring something into the world that wasn't there before.
It's about staying curious, right? Not being afraid of the new just because we're comfortable with the old.
Exactly. Use the tech to clear the boring stuff out of the way so you can get back to the heart of it. Be a maker mogul by being yourself, not a polished corporate version of yourself. And for heaven's sake, if you're going to build something for your mom this weekend, measure it twice, maybe 3 times.
Wise words. So, are you actually going to finish that walnut piece tonight?
I think I'm going to go find that scroll saw video and see how fast I can move.
Good luck, Tiger. You're going to need it.
Stay hungry, stay humble, and keep making, everyone. We'll see you in the shop.